Well, we continue with the final segment before we hand you over to Maulana Yunus Kawanga with the spiritual hour. And we want to talk about the growing halal tourism market, particularly in South Africa. Now, South Africa, alhamdulillah, is in a very, very good space as far as tourism is concerned. And halal tourism in particular, where we've seen it over and over again, where many visitors, Muslim travelers to South Africa, always speak very, very highly of South Africa. They talk about the infrastructure, they talk about the tourism experience, they talk about the quality in more ways than one, whether we're talking accommodation, you're talking food, whatever it is, at the end of the day, the sites, the travel around the country, all of that has actually put South Africa in a good space. And this is the reason why we are talking about tapping into the growing halal tourism market with the chairperson of the Halal Tourism Association of South Africa. She also runs her own tourism business in Cape Town called Halal Hopper. We're talking with Fayrouz Holiday-October. Sister Fayrouz, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ramadan Kareem to you and Jazakallah khairan so much for your time.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Brother Inayat. Shukran so much for that, and Ramadan Kareem to you and the listeners that are currently listening to us from all over the world, I would think, inshallah.
Afwan, Sister Fayrouz. Okay, let's talk about the halal growing market in South Africa. Now, clearly, we know that South Africa is in a very, very good space when it comes to tourism. It's a beautiful country, it's got variety on offer, and particularly for Muslims as well. You know, looking at Muslim travelers, and I mentioned when they come to South Africa, they're actually amazed with the country. And this, at the end of the day, creates opportunities. So, just an overview on how you see this halal tourism market in South Africa and its growth.
Alhamdulillah, first of all, we have a long legacy of Islam at the Cape, stemming back over 350 years, with, Sheikh Yusuf al Makassari being banished here to the Cape, John Kuru, and so many others. And of course, they held on to the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but holding on to their faith, so that, Alhamdulillah, Islam is so established in the Cape. We're so far down south, but I do believe that we are very much on the staunch side of Islam, and really holding on onto it, because we come from a non-Islamic country. So at the end of the day, there's so much of potential, because we ourselves, as domestic travelers going between Cape Town, Johannesburg, Durban, Port Elizabeth, and the rest of the province or the country, we actually do halal tourism without even realizing it. Packing our bags, going to a different area or province, for that matter, city, this is where halal tourism actually sets in. But of course, the main reason for traveling also is that we want to enjoy what it has to offer, but at the same time, you also don't want to carry, the whole boot of your car, take the whole boot packed full of eatables, so that you can enjoy a halal of a time, if I can call it that. So the position of us here in Cape Town, we're well positioned. Airlines are coming in to Cape Town, more being added on. They're flying to Johannesburg, and into the smaller airports as well. And people come here because our destination offers so much sights and sounds, the mountains, the beaches. It's got so much to offer, and people want to travel, but we need to be prepared to, of course, welcome them. And when we welcome them, it has to shift away from halal friendly. We have to give people a full-on halal experience, and we are able to do
Yes,
that.
yes, Sister Feroz. In fact, I think you know what you are saying, and obviously we know that there has been a growing demand. There has been a rising demand for halal tourism, and the point that you are making at the end of the day, we need to be prepared, and just to understand, which are the areas we need to focus on. Number one, and also if there are any gaps, what are those gaps, and how does one actually fill those gaps?
Look, first of all, I do believe that a big awareness needs to be created so that everyone, tourism is everybody's business at the same time. So everyone gets to understand, first of all, what halal is about and halal in tourism. It's not only the meat that people consume. It's the process, as I always say, is, from the farm to the table. What does that process look like? Is it accessible for people to then get their food to their door and then, of course, plate it and then serve it onto your client? Making it accessible, number one, and at the same time inclusive. You want to spend your money in a space that you're spending it consciously. And you, of course, want a conscious return on that money. So it's a fair trade off at the same time. People have many entities where you find that they say, they are catering to the needs of that Muslim traveler. But, are they really valuing the monies that are being spent, and are you giving the proper return on it? So, of course, they need to be well positioned so that, of course, people can come to them and spend their money in that particular entity. Then, of course, also providing facilities. There's a big difference between Muslim friendliness, and halal. So the Muslim friendliness is really where an entity or a facility comes up and says, you know what, we have so many people coming through here, spending their money, just using it in, for example, an airport. Do we have a salah facility that can accommodate people for not having to stand and just put out their prayer mat anywhere in the airport, but where they can actually go and congregate and actually perform their prayers? Those type of things, also experiences where people want to offer an experience to visitors, but what does that experience look like? For example, if you want to go skydiving you can't do by yourself if you are not a tandem master, all right? So you have to jump with somebody, and attached to somebody, 99% is a male. So how do you, as a Muslim female, wanting to experience a destination and, experience an experience as well, or immerse yourself in one, how do you get to do that if, of course, you can't jump with this male tender master? So what establishments have done, or your skydiving operators, some of them have taken the initiative to then have a woman, to be able to do that, so that when women jump, they feel comfortable. They can also enjoy the destination. And then, of course, also you look at how do you present your business, making sure that without a doubt somebody's going to believe that you say that they are halal, especially when you're a non-Muslim operator. So, of course, halal certification is very important. Many people say it's a money-making business. It's not. It's about making sure that people don't have a doubt in their mind, that process has been followed, and that, of course, whatever's being served to them, comes from a permissible source, whether it's from the farmer to the table, through the whole process, that is obviously all looked at. And then, of course, Muslim-friendly accommodation. I know many hoteliers always find a water bottle of some sort. I'm not going to mention names because then I'm going to be advertising for so many bottled water companies. You always find this bottle in your establishment. So what are people doing about that to make sure that, we've got Muslim people coming in? We may not offer halal food. We can give them a list of eateries close by that they can go and visit, and have a pick and choose from. But how are we accommodating them in our space? Are we giving them a jug in that bathroom at least? Do we show them or have a list of mosques that are close by? Little things that will mean a lot, because, brother Inayat, so many times you have big corporates, that send their staff to a specific space because it's accessible to the venue that they need to go to. But does that space take time to think? They're not going. My corporate's not going to move anywhere else. But I do have one or two Muslim guests that do check in. What am I doing differently? How am I welcoming them to make sure that we are inclusive and things are accessible?
Yes, I think you've raised so many important things, and these are little things which is important. Like, for example, you speak about Muslim-friendly accommodation, a thing like a jug, or possibly a qibla direction, and also when you're looking at staff at the hotel, and I see I'm reading up about cultural sensitivity training, where staff are actually trained and have some understanding of what Muslim culture is all about, particularly, when they are serving in terms of meat, in terms of cross contamination of food, all of those type of things, because we know we go over and over and we go to the hotel, and sometimes, you want to order a breakfast and you ask them the question that, is this omelette or is this egg being fried with, anything that is not halal, which is contaminated. So what I'm saying is there again another opportunity in terms of providing that type of training, which just makes that experience a lot more easier, a lot more pleasant for the traveler, Sister Fayrouz.
Absolutely. And that's what the Tourism Association does. We do awareness training to make sure that people first understand what halal is about, because you don't want to just spring it onto them, and say you have to do this and this and this. We want to introduce it so that people are sensitized to it. And once they understand the concept of it, then of course training them to sensitivity as to how to deal with a Muslim traveler. Because at the same time also, we also have non-Muslim halal consumers. How do you sell that commodity of yours to the person if you don't understand it? So you want people to be sensitized towards that. And at the same time, with halal certification, you need one Muslim person in that kitchen to oversee, to make sure that things are, the proper processes are happening within it. People run out of one kind of spice, do they just run off to the shop, buy another packet, and just introduce it into the kitchen, and they just continue without any worries. These are the kind of things that need to be in place. But of course, that's the certifier's job to do, to get those things in order. What we really do is we engage the different entities and give them an understanding of what halal is all about and how it can change the bottom line. Because you are looking at a group of people that's willing to travel, willing to spend, to stay, willing to spend, willing to eat, but how are you making it accessible to them? And I always say also, we have so many, mashallah, halal entities, really, really good ones. But where's the support of the ummah going to them? It's not always about the pretty background that you find in your post that you do on social media. It's about what you feel in your stomach at the end of the day. And that's a question you need to ask yourself, is that halal friendly really halal?
Mm. Well, certainly. In fact, obviously it raises a lot of more questions as well. But again, it comes to one thing, and I'm sure you're doing a lot, and you being in the industry as well in terms of advertising South Africa as an attractive halal travel destination, and I'm sure you must have seen a lot, even with your tourism business, which is called Halal Hopper as well. I'm sure with many guests coming through from many other parts from around the country and also from other provinces as well. It's all about marketing, it's all about advertising, and it's all about giving people that level of confidence that when I am traveling to South Africa, I am confident that my experience is going to be 100% halal, for want of a better term.
Absolutely. Because when you are sitting scouting around to decide where you're going to travel to, the first thing you think of is food. Is food going to be accessible to me? Or in the other 23-kilo bag that the airline is offering, am I going to have to drag that food around with me? And that shouldn't be the case. You're going on a holiday, you want it to be accessible, you want to make sure that it conforms to the standards that halal, um, uh, that standard of halal, uh, certified halal, I would say, not just halal, because when people say halal, the friendliness always gets attached to it. And we should start moving away from that, because it's not halal if it's friendly. because we don't know the process and the source of that particular products, where it comes from, how it gets to your plate. And people say, yeah, but I'm traveling. But yes, there are alternatives. But we need to look for those alternatives. We're marketing those alternatives to you. But it shouldn't be an alternative for you to do when you travel. It should be part of mainstream tourism. Halal tourism should be part of mainstream tourism, not an alternative tourism.
Exactly, exactly. I think you make a very, very important and a valid point there, Sister Fayrouz. Well, Jazakallah khairan for that, and also taking time out this afternoon with us here on Salam Media. I think it's quite an interesting discussion, and it does require a lot more at some point in time. And we know we're in the month of Ramadan, so very few of us travel in the month of Ramadan, but looking forward to, inshallah, out of Ramadan, perhaps further engagements. And I think this is absolutely necessary. But for now, we thank you. And yes, enjoy the blessings of the rest of this month of Ramadan, inshallah. And please remember us in your du'as. Allah accept, Allah reward your efforts as well. I know you're doing a lot of good work at the end of the day. And at the end, even if we're talking about tourism, it is obviously some service, and it is a form of service to the Muslim Ummah as well in a halal way. So that alone is dawah in itself to Sister Fayrouz. Assalamu alaikum to you.
Shukran wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and all the beautiful blessings to yourself and everyone, the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Ameen, Ameen, Ya Rabbal Alameen. That was Sister Fayrouz Holliday-October joining us and just talking about the halal tourism market in general, and also looking at the type of work that she does as the chairperson of the Halal Tourism Association of South Africa, and looking at how we can actually tap into the halal market, where the gaps are, but more importantly, how can we, with absolute certainty, make South Africa, and especially for Muslim travelers to South Africa, that halal tourism, to give them the confidence, and that at the end of the day, that they are having that halal travel experience here in South Africa. And with that, I'm going to take leave of you. Next up, we have got Maulana Yunus Kawanga, who is going to take you through to the time of iftar in Johannesburg. So for now, from myself and the team, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.